Welcome to Always Coachable, conversations with athletes, leaders, coaches, and high performers about growth, mindset, resilience, and the lessons that shape us over time. I'm Sandy Cohen, and today's guest is Dr. Jamie Phillips. Jamie is the founder and CEO of Ghost Athletica, a doctor of physical therapy, former Division I goaltender at Michigan Tech, and a former professional hockey player who spent nearly a decade playing across North America and Europe. Today, he helps athletes perform at their best, their highest level, by combining performance, recovery, rehabilitation, and mindset into one complete approach. And Jamie, here is why I wanted you on the show. You and I met recently at an event up at Merrimack, where I had the chance to hear you speak, and I walked away incredibly impressed. And it wasn't just with the things that you were saying, your knowledge and your expertise, but it was the way that you communicated, the way you challenged people to think differently, and your genuine passion for helping athletes become the best version of themselves. Watching what you have built with Ghost Athletica and the impact that you're having is really just an inspiring thing to see. So I'm excited for people to get to know you better. So officially, Jamie, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for that intro, Sandy. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me on.
Is it weird to hear that stuff? I know you're a very, very humble guy, but is it weird to hear that stuff kind of said about you?
It always is, because you think about your journey as an athlete and it's always, you're so goal oriented. And then you don't really think about what you accomplished until even a few years after you retire. And then still on the business side, which is now my new goal, I haven't achieved everything that I would like to achieve, but we're in a good spot. And I can look back, especially on the playing career and how it has led to where I am now. And I'm very proud of that. We can get into it when we talk a little bit more about, how I got here. But it took me a while after retiring to accept that I actually was good at sports.
Yeah.
When you never, I signed and I play. I never got any minutes in the NHL, but I was called up several times. And when I think of it that way, it seems like a failure. But then now that I'm 6 years removed from playing, I can look back and be like, you know what? I was pretty good. It was good. I wasn't, yes, did I achieve everything? No. But in terms of the grand scheme of things and being one of the top, being in the AHL means you're in the top 120 goalies in the world. That's pretty cool for just a normal for any athlete. And so
I would say so. Take me back to before Ghost, before the studying and becoming a doctor, before kind of the professional playing career, right around the college-ish years, or maybe even a touch younger. What were you like as a younger person?
Oh, you probably have to ask my parents how it was. But
well, they're actually in the next room. Mom and Dad, come on out. No, I'm kidding.
I've been trying to get my dad on my podcast for forever, and he refuses to do it. So if you got him, I'd be very impressed.
That's hilarious.
So I started a little bit later. I started playing goalie at 12. I was fortunate that I had access to, in my opinion, I still believe it, one of the best goalie coaches in the world, Derek Boujan. He's out of Hamilton, Ontario, where I grew up. And we were able to, when I look back at it now, we were essentially able to accelerate a lot of that development just because I was in such a great environment. I was very intrinsically motivated. I'm a very goal oriented person in everything that I do in life. And, from the time I was 12 till 27, it was be the best goalie that I could be. So, things went well. It took me a while to end up playing AAA. I ended up making my major bantam years in Ontario. So in the States, that would be equivalent to your 14U year. I played that year. I played my minor midget or U15. I was drafted to the OHL. At that time, it still had the old rules. You had to choose between college and major junior. Didn't make it my 16-year-old year. Decided that college is the way I wanted to go. Played junior B my first year as a 16-year-old. Didn't really play a lot. I think I had 4 starts in the whole year. It was a tough year. It was definitely a learning experience. Fortunately, I had an opportunity to I was scouted at the time by Sheldon Keefe, who was the head coach, GM, and owner of Pembroke Lumber Kings. He brought me in as a backup as a 17-year-old backup, and I was able to just have success. I ended up playing like 44 games. We won a national championship that year. That helped elevate me to get to the BCHL, where I played really well, got a scholarship, and then I was actually traded at the time to a team in the OJ right at deadline day. Did well, was drafted to the NHL out of the OJ, and that set me up to go to college at Michigan Tech the next year. So I played 3 years of junior on 5 teams, which seems like a lot, but usually the movement was up, except
Yep.
for the one trade. That's my hilarious story. Is I was traded because I got a scholarship, and the coach wasn't happy about that, so he sat me and benched me for a month, and then I asked for a trade. So it wasn't. Hopefully, we will see that they're like, "Oh man, this guy bounced around with a suitcase," but it
No,
wasn't.
no,
It
no.
wasn't all bad.
Where do you mentioned something earlier that you were always you remember being very goal oriented. Where do you think that came from? Was it in your environment? Because one way to look at your story is almost, I know you're somewhat in jest, but is the way that you kind of just said it. But the other way is this guy had a plan, gritty, resilient. He was disciplined, willing to do the work. Where do you think that came from for you?
Easily my parents. So my parents are, if you take the definition of high performers, they would have checked all those boxes. When it comes to athletics, my dad was the national junior champion in kayaking for Canada when he was younger. My mom was a high level, like provincial champion level. My dad was on path to go to the Olympics for Team Canada, but life got in the way of that. And then my mom, who was a decorated athlete and kayaking on her own side, was probably the smartest person I know. She was a dentist, didn't like it, went back to school to become a physician with 3 kids. So in my household, there were 2 things. There was academic excellence and then athletic excellence. My parents were good, really good about allowing us to kind of steer the ship. They would support us financially, emotionally, the time it took to be a high level athlete, but they never really like pushed us to the point of burning out. My dad did that when I was a player, which is why I actually switched to goalie, because he was a crazy hockey dad. You'd score 5. I
Yep.
was a pretty good player in my small town. And then like I'd score like 7 goals and I'd be in the car ride crying because of the 2 pucks that I missed. And then eventually he realized when I gave him an ultimatum, like either I quit hockey altogether or you let me become a goalie, because he used to not let me play goalie. I had to be a player. I had to be a player. And then once we made that switch, he never said a single word other than like, what do you want to do? Like, how can we support you? So that, I'm one of 4 kids. And so obviously there's a little bit of hunger when you're, middle child of 4. But that excellence in everything in everyday life was like a non-negotiable. And that's carried over into what I do now, but in everything where grades, grades have to be an A.
Yep.
And I have to do my best in sports. There's no in between. And I need to make sure I'm doing exactly what I need to get an A in school and exactly what I need to make sure that I take advantage of every single training opportunity, whether that's in the gym, on the ice, the mindset, the nutrition. It was just like, I just knew that was the case. And I knew if I wanted to be the best I could be, I had to be dialed in.
Did you ever resent the work? And this is probably still pre-college, but did you always look at it as something that it was just chasing excellence? You were just trying to stack good days and eventually you have enough good days and that's the achievement. Did you ever resent the discipline of the work?
No, I don't think so. I knew that was what was required. Like I wasn't the most naturally gifted goalie by any means. Like I wasn't like a Vasilevsky or some of these are Carey Prices, some of these guys that are just like the superstars from day one. And I knew that I had to outwork everybody, or that was my mindset. It was just kind of work, work, work. And eventually if you work hard enough, like good things happen. And that is what happened up until there's a point, and obviously basically at the highest level that's kind of starts to even out where there's a lot more skill and stuff that kind of and natural ability kind of play into that. But yeah, it wasn't, I actually really enjoyed the work because I knew it was for a purpose. Especially like now owning a gym and we have lots of athletes here. Like we know which guys don't like working out and we know which guys do. And so we try to make the environment here, the ones that it pushes all athletes, and the ones that don't want to work out, they love it. They come work out. At least they enjoy the environment and then get the work done when they're there, because they're coming in to hang out with the guys or hang out with the girls. The guys that do the work, you don't really have to worry about them. Usually you have to
Right.
pull back a little bit, but it's always been like that in life. And actually our gym motto is never outworked. And that's kind of, I even have it like tattooed on my hand. Like that one is how I live my life. And even, my wife and I were fortunate enough to buy a house like 2 weeks ago, and I had to repaint the whole thing. Like, so I just woke up at 4 a.m. and painted, coached, went back, painted till midnight, 4 days straight until the whole house was painted.
Yep.
It's just kind of the way that I'm wired. Like, and it's sometimes it can get a little unhealthy, but it's just, that's it. Like, that's all I know is to work hard, and good things tend to happen.
Nothing about that, from the little bit that I know you, surprises me. But you bring up something like during all of these podcast interviews, speaking to people such as yourself, accomplished, high performers, everybody mentions what you just said in one form or another. There seems to be a line that maybe is somewhat, it moves up and down, but one side is being obsessed and the other side is like not being maybe committed enough. And it's kind of knowing where that is. But everybody seems to suggest that in order to be great or to achieve, there is some sort of healthy obsession that's needed. What are your thoughts on that?
I would agree 100%. Oftentimes when we look at like successful athletes, we get a lot of like survivorship biased, and we also look at like the high performers. Like, if I tried to model every one of my athletes after Connor McDavid, it's like probably not going to work. Actually, that might not even be an example, because he also works really hard. Let's just say like this is the stereotypical athlete, but like the Phil Kessels, right? Guys that are just so naturally good, but like they don't love the work that it takes to be the best, but they're so good that it doesn't really matter. But that's so far and few between, right? And then we're gonna have athletes on the other end who have like no talent, and we have to work them so hard just to be average. But it's that huge group in the middle of the bell curve, that's kind of where that the work that it takes on the ice, off the ice, all those things come into play. Because if you work hard, you can start to get towards you can start to move towards the right side of the bell curve. But if you don't, you start to trickle away towards the left. And then vice versa when it comes to the skill, right? Like, if you're not doing your skill work, you start to trickle away. And so for us as like coaches, we tend to operate most of the time in the middle of the bell curve. And that's where we make the most amount of impact. But I do think you have to have that. It's both, right? The obsession, you can call it obsession, you can call it dedication, you can call it intrinsic motivation, but it's just, it's the willingness to do it beyond, and putting everything else like aside, because you know that that's what it takes. And we see it all the time. Like, I'm sure you see it with a lot of your athletes, is you'll be talking with them, or I'll be in the gym and they'll be good, but you know that they just they don't want it. Like, they don't really want it. They kind of want it, but like, do you want it bad enough to say no to your friends and not go to that party Friday, Saturday night and drink?
So from a coaching standpoint, how do you, I'm so curious, how do you, I know exactly the situation.
Yeah.
How do you handle that though? Cause that's a tough spot. Maybe they're being pushed by their parents, or there could be a whole host of reasons, but how do you handle situations like that?
Honestly, on an individual, like athlete to athlete basis, because it depends where that pressure, if it's pressure or influence, is coming from. Like you said, if it's parents, then it's a lot of discussions with the athletes, just like asking how they're doing. Like, so few coaches just like ask like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, how are things going on in your life? If it's influence from friends that maybe either are hockey players or non-athletes that want to just, get after it every single weekend and just booze all the time, then it's asking, it's like, one, like, how come we're doing this? Do you know that it's detrimental, right? And number two is there a middle ground? Okay, instead of going out Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, like, what if we just go Friday? How about that? How about 1 day a week? And then dial back. And then it's hard because like like you said, like I'm a crazy person when it comes to like all these things, and I care probably too deeply about my athlete's success. Like I wear that quite a bit on my sleeve. So when I see guys and girls that like, aren't listening or like don't want it as bad as I wanted it, it's hard because I know that I can't want it for them. And so all I can do is create the environment and provide all the resources necessary for these athletes so that we check every box. And if they're not willing to check it themselves, will I give up on them? No, I never will. But when they retire and when their playing career is over and we go get a beer one day, they'll use most of them will say, yeah, like I probably should have did this or should have did that. And that's where we're at because I can't play the game for everyone. I can
Yep.
just provide the resources.
You don't have to answer this question, but almost part two of the other question was, some would say, and I'm older than you, so I would say it's even more intense, but it seems like um, the athletes when I was younger, and you probably say even when you were younger, um, were maybe a little bit more focused on kind of the get back up, whereas now it seems like they're maybe a little bit more apprehensive to even fail. Like that resiliency, grit part maybe has changed. I don't know if it's culture. I don't know if it's something that you see, but um, do you think that's valid?
I think so. I wonder this. I had a conversation with someone the other day about something like this because for us, like you're a generation older than me, and then I'm in the middle, and then we have our athletes. And I feel like every generation we always look back on the next one and being like, yeah, they don't want it as bad as I
I
want it.
know, I
And
know.
sometimes I look back and I try to think like, do I look back on my career now in rose-colored glasses too much? Right. But I do think I mean, there were always athletes that you know they just didn't make it. Like that's how you gotta kill what you eat or kill or be killed in athletics and in life, right? And it's the harsh reality of it. Some people don't like it, but it is true. Like when it comes to a performance sport, eventually the best players will move on, right? And if you don't want it, like even if you are the best player, but you're on a team and you're getting healthy scratched and you're not willing to work around what it takes to maybe change your game or get your mindset right, you fall away, and that someone else will replace you that's more prepared for that. Um, I think what's different between like where we are, like me being 33. I don't want to assume your age, but I'm going to guess it's in the
34,
50s. Okay,
34.
perfect. Yeah,
No,
so
no.
yeah,
Yeah, 51, 51.
yeah. So like there's that there's like a 20-year gap between us, and then there's like a 10 to 15-year gap between a lot of my athletes and myself. Is like the TikTokification, the social media of it, and it goes in everything in life, and I'm guilty of it. Like I see people and have way better businesses than me that are in completely unrelated field. I see a guy who has a firework company that makes way more money than me in my business, and I'm like, I need to be better.
Yep.
If I'm a young kid and I go online and I go on TikTok and all I see is how sick everyone is all the time, and these
Yep.
awesome goals and all this and all that, it makes it feel like everyone is always winning all the time and there's never any failure. And that isn't the case for any athlete. And for successful ones, you need to fail because that's when you learn. And failure doesn't have to mean having a bad season. Failure can mean just literally giving up a goal in a goalie skate. Okay, so we gave up a goal. It's a small failure, but instead of framing that as, oh, I gave up a goal, the world's ending and I'm a bad goalie, it's like, okay, what can I learn from that? Right? What can I learn from that? And so I think that pressure also, like you'll see it from parents too, because the parents will get FOMO of, oh, my kid's not at this showcase, or my kid's not doing this, my kid's not doing that.
Yep.
And instead of just like trusting the process, talking to experts that are like yourself and myself, who have been around the game for so long to be successful, help them make those good decisions. And like instead of going to 8 showcases a year, like these are the 2 we should probably go to because they're the best kind of thing. Or you don't have to be on the ice 50 times a week. You're losing your puck battles because you're not very strong. Like you need to get in the gym more versus more skill work. Or we have athletes that are super strong and athletic, but have bad hands. Like, okay, we need to do more skill work and to balance it out. But when you see it only wins all the time,
Yeah.
it's easy to get discouraged. And I don't blame young kids on that. Again, it goes back to what you and I do is we provide that resource, that bridge to be able to articulate to these athletes that this is normal. Like messing up and failing and missing the net or getting scored on or getting pulled or getting scratched are normal parts of an athlete's journey.
Sure.
How do we deal with them? What do we learn from it? And how do we reframe that in our mind that is going to set the other athletes that either don't have those tools or aren't willing to make those changes? That's what sets them apart.
I agree 1,000%. But when for you, did you say, I want to take this to kind of another level? I don't know if it was towards the end of your career or when you said, I want to chase this doctorate of physical therapy. When did you make that decision for yourself, and what was the reason?
Yeah. So, well, when it comes to the next level thing, I kind of realized in terms of like the playing career, when I was 14, I realized like it's time to dial it in. I'm playing AAA now for the first time. Something's working. And then when I was like 16, 17, after that junior B year where I didn't play a lot, I was getting frustrated. I was falling down the classic, trying to be a hockey beauty, trying to fit in. 16. There's one of two 16-year-olds because they only are allowed two at the time in that league. And I was picking up chewing tobacco and starting to drink and doing all that stuff because I wanted to fit in. And like I remember I was getting pretty out of shape. And I remember my dad said something. He's like, listen, if you're not going to work, we're not going to support you. And I kind of realized, I was like, what am I doing? And I just kind of like, I don't know. I think I realized that a little bit on my own. I'm sure there was some other people like my goalie coach and stuff in my life. And like, obviously on top of my parents that said things. And then from there, like that was it. There was never any other, it was singular focus again to a fault. Like I apologize. I should probably apologize to a lot of past girlfriends because like it sounds funny to say, but I prioritize hockey first over that.
Of course.
Now as a married man, like I prioritize my wife on top of things. But I look back and I'm like, I probably didn't need to be that neurotic when like traveling on vacation and not eating some fun stuff and experimenting because I needed to work out. So when it came to the play, like my education, so I finished all 4 years at Tech, my undergrad. I went and played pro. So I was drafted and then I signed after my senior year. So I played pro for 4 years. And in my second year pro, that's when like I really struggled the mental performance side of it. And it was it was still at that weird time where like everyone was too proud to say there was like mental health issues.
Absolutely. Yep.
I was just like 2 or 3 years before, like too early. But I found a guy, Bob Broden. He's a mental coach as well, and we worked together. And he, you know what, to his credit, like he's a really good guy. We extended my career probably about 2 years because I was ready to quit after my entry level because I was just so burnt out. I was developing really bad performance anxiety, is teetering into depression. It was so unhealthy. Oh, and I should have, looking back now, like I should have went to see like not even a sports psychologist. I needed to go see an actual therapist because there were so many underlying things that were like stacking before I even went to see a mental performance coach or a sports psych because I had to deal with those other things first. I knew this now going to therapy after I retired. But I was able to elongate my career about 2 years. My play didn't really suffer until I went to Europe. We were not a strong team. I didn't play my best. And then like everything just kind of went like downhill and I stopped having fun. And as soon as I stopped having fun, like it was hard. It was getting harder to wake up and go work out. I would still do it, but I was less like, it wasn't as fun. I didn't enjoy it as much. Even like skating, which like doing a goalie skate is still probably my favorite thing in the world. But I remember the one summer, and that's how my goalie coach said he knew it was over, was like I took a month off the ice. And I never did that in the past. The longest I would ever take is like 2 weeks. But I remember just saying like, I'm just not ready to skate yet. I'm just not ready to skate yet. And
it's a scary time though.
It's
when
hard.
when you start experiencing those things for the first time in your life. I mean, hockey was such a part of your life for so long. It's scary when you wake up one day and you realize that it's not that you don't like it, but maybe you like it a little bit less, and there's nothing that you can do that can seem to change it.
I had fallen out of love with it. I still liked it, but the love wasn't there. And so, so I went to Europe. I got fired, or I was playing in the English league, so they called it sacked. And there, I was the highest paid guy in the team. We weren't doing well. It's easy to cut. It makes sense. So I just got, after a 3-game win streak, obviously, of course, I got called in, and they're just like, "We're letting you go." I just remember going to my car in the parking lot and just crying. Called my dad, and I was like, I am deaf. I'm not doing this anymore. Called the coach who at Michigan Tech, who was my goalie coach and then assistant at the time, and then he became the head coach. And I just said, "Hey, like this is my last year. I'm done. You guys don't have a goalie coach. If you're willing to cover the cost of my master's degree, because I'd been so long, I needed to like get new credits or like update credits in order to apply to PT school. It's like, if you're willing to cover my master's, like, I'll goalie coach." And he's like, "Yes, let me see what we can do." Went home, took about 3-ish weeks looking for a team. Was going to go back to Europe, but then decided I wanted to stay in the States because my girlfriend at the time was going to med school. And so I wanted to be around her for the summer. I needed the health insurance. So I signed at Cincinnati. When I was in Cincy, they got a call saying like, "Yeah, we approved it. If you're in, we'll get it all done. We'll get your school paid for. Come goalie coach." I said, "All right, I'm in." And of course, that's the monkey off my back. Now I start playing well because I'm not thinking about all the things. I ended up getting moved to Brampton because they wanted to go on a playoff run. It was awesome. We had a great team. COVID shut us down. And then that was it. Just one day after a game, we got a call the next day, season's over. Packed my bags, got the coach to write a letter to the Border Patrol because they weren't allowing people to cross the border at the time, and is saying, "Hey, we need this person," for some sort of excuse they came up with. And then I drove across and started my school immediately and really jumped into it. And it was weird, and I apologize for rambling.
It's all right.
I thought I was mad at the game, but I was mad at myself for losing the love of hockey. And I tried to distance myself from hockey as much as possible outside of my responsibilities as the goalie coach. Like, I knew I was good at coaching. I'd coached camps and stuff when I was younger. And then like getting there and telling myself, like, "Listen, Jamie, you can be a whiny B word as much as you want, but these 3 guys in front of you, they're relying on you. They're your responsibility." And so I gave them everything. And it turns out we had like crazy success with our goalies. Like, out of the 5 that I had at that time, 3 of them went pro and are still playing pro.
Wow.
So like good numbers. And then doing that, that's kind of where I found the love of coaching, but I kept like fighting it. I got into PT school, was there, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't want people to know that I played hockey. I don't want any of this. Like, I just want to be a normal person, for a non-athlete, for the first time in my life. Because I'd always identified as a hockey player. And then it's like, you know what? I'm going to go into PT. I'm going to go like pediatrics or like neurology or something that was not even, there's no athletes. I don't want any athletes.
Yep.
But as life goes on, everything pushes you and all these opportunities create. And one of my buddies just said, "Why are you fighting it? Like, just be a hockey PT. Like, just go into hockey. Just coach goalies, be a hockey PT. It's what you're known for. It's what you love." And then once I stopped fighting it, the love of the game came rushing back. And it wasn't of me playing. Like, I still don't really play. I play like 2 times a year for like charity tournaments. But the love of the hockey came back because I could start to coach and be involved in the journey of my athletes. And that's how it kind of all came full circle to where I am here, being fully involved and immersed in hockey again, but just from a way that I think I'm much better coach than I was a goalie. And one way where every single day, like, I wake up and I love what I get to do because it's just, I'm with hockey players all day. And it's awesome.
It's hard. I went through it. I mean, so many players go through it. Like, when it's over, like, it's doing it. Anything less than being all in it's very hard. And it's like you fight it. Like, your moves aren't as good, your hands aren't as good, your feet aren't as good. And it's like I remember there was a stretch where even watching hockey for me was tough, but I didn't really know how to verbalize it. I was probably in a similar spot that you were talking about. But what was it that you think you were able to do that, quote, solved the issue of fighting it? Like how did you get over that?
I don't know. That's a good question. I agree. I didn't watch a professional hockey game in person till like 3 years after I
Yeah, I
retired,
was
and
gonna
even then it was
say 4
one.
years.
I
Yeah.
went and watched a player. I went and watched one of my former because my wife, my now wife, we were dating at the time. Her mom was living in Greenville, South Carolina, and so we were visiting. And teammate that I played in Europe with was playing. He was on the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, and we were in town. So I was just like, "Hey, I'm in town. Like my wife and my my mother-in-law want to watch a game. Can we come?" And I remember watching it, and 2 or 3 years removed to playing, and I remember just thinking the whole time is like, I can still do this. Like I can still be out here. And it kind of turned into like a miniature panic attack. And it was really not enjoyable experience to be there. It was great to watch my friends, but I couldn't get out of my own head. And I didn't watch my first, even like living in this Grand Rapids where we have an American League team. I didn't watch my first American League game until maybe even a year and a half ago in Charlotte, North Carolina, just because my buddy owns a hockey training center down there, and we were going to watch a game that he was sponsored. And so that was the first American League game I watched. And then I finally watched one or two at Grand Rapids this year, and I started to like relax a little bit. But the time, to answer your question, when I stopped fighting it, it was my one buddy Trav, who's like, he was a hockey influencer. And so he could see it on the side, and like, he's like, well, you're a goal, you're a hockey guy. Like you are, all the things you're doing and all these opportunities that you're telling me you're getting them because of hockey. Just, just do it. Just try it. And I was like, you know what? Fine. Like, F it. I'm going to do it. And I tried it. And now all these things like popped up. And then like I started an online goalie coaching thing. And I still exist. It's just, we're remodifying it, but it was really successful. I was able to make enough money to pay for my doctorate out of that. These opportunities created where I was able to volunteer goalie coach at Fox Motors AAA, where I am now. And while I was going through my last little bit of school, which ended up into a paid position, which ended up into putting my PT clinic here, which then turned into putting the gym. And it all happened because I just didn't fight it. And even now, like, even when I graduated, I was like, okay, I have goalie coach Jamie, who's pretty good. And I have PT Jamie, who's pretty good. And I was like, you know what? It's going to be a lot more likely for an NHL team to call me to fix Vasilevsky when he's hurt versus call me to fix him when he's not playing well. So let's lean into the PT side of things. And so I did. And then all these goalie opportunities started coming up.
Yeah, it's the way
And
it
so
goes.
then I was like, you know what? Let's just do, so even now, so I do my PT more as like almost like a side hustle. Like I'll treat athletes as they need it, and like athletes and non-athletes. I have a lot of like older tennis women too that I treat, and but I don't ever advertise it. It's just people reach out and like, hey, I'm hurt, I need some help. Okay, I got you. But I'm not out there saying like, hey, come see my clinic, do this, because the goalie coaching side is what I've realized is that's the avenue that I want to pursue on top of growing this business into something that's going to reach hopefully thousands, but ideally hundreds of thousands of hockey players over the next forever. So again, stop fighting it. Try your best not to be in your own head, which I am a lot. Don't have the horse blinders on. Ask others because they will be honest and like brutally honest with you and things that opportunities that are coming up, and then go with what's given with you rather than trying to fight something that's not there. Fight for something that's not there.
What do you like most about the coaching part or the having impact? Like what's the most rewarding part of that for you?
The impact part is I get to see these athletes reach their highest level in their dreams, because I knew what that was like for me. And my goalie coach is also my best friend. There's a reason I represent him a lot because I think he's the best in the world. Actually, I know he's the best in the world. There's a lot of people that are going to say that I'm the best in the world. I think he's a million times better than me by a lot. So one, he's an unbelievable goalie coach. He's also my best friend. He's been my friend since we started working together since we were 12. He's the best man in my wedding. We talk to him every day. We do our podcast together. We talk all the time. So like that's an important thing. I forgot your question. I went on a tangent.
No, that's all right. What's the most rewarding part? Having impact,
Oh yeah, being able to be a part of it, because I know for him, like he loved, because I was his first guy to go to a high level, And so we learned together and experimented together and found what worked. But it's seeing our athletes come in that end up going D1 and they're having success, making the jump from like single A to triple A and all these things. And so knowing that you're a part of it, and knowing, because everything I have in my life is because of hockey, knowing that there are a lot of athletes that we work with are going to have a lot of these opportunities because of this game. And that's the rewarding part of it for me. Like right now, I'm sitting down working on the schedule of all the games on which weekends that I can travel to watch our athletes that are within a certain radius. Like our NHL guys, okay, we're gonna have to go to Detroit or Chicago. When are they coming in? Our USHL guys, I work with Muskegon, so that one's easy. The AHL guys, when are they playing in Grand Rapids, or when are they playing somewhere in driving distance that we can go watch? So going above and beyond for the athletes so that they know that we're there in their corner, so that they can just worry about playing the game and doing what they need to be successful, so that when we get that text saying like, got the shutout, I made the team, or like,
Yep.
thanks for the great summer, like this was an awesome summer of training, like that's what motivates me in the coaching position.
Do you remember a time when you started becoming aware of those sorts of things, right? Because it's almost, life changes, and what you were evaluating as success for you, was things that you were achieving. And then all of a sudden you're now kind of basing success on being there for others. Like, do you remember the time when you kind of said, oh my gosh, I am to so many people what my coaches and mentors were to me?
Probably later than I should have. I had one of my goalies, Blake Pietila in college, was like a Hobie Baker nominee for like 3 years in a row. Stud, undersized goalie, dominated college hockey, broke all the records that I had. And like seeing that, actually, I think that probably was it, because when I graduated, I had about 4 college records from our school. Still have one he won't be able to touch, but he just shattered all my records. And I remember and I was just excited for him to do that. Like, so I remember people would be like, what do you think? You're coaching him, he's breaking your records. I'm like, yeah, like that is what I want. That is my job as a coach. Like, being an athlete is like a very selfish endeavor. Like it is. And I knew that right away. And like when I was playing and I was going through my darkest times, I didn't like it because everything was focused on me. What do I need to do to get better? It wasn't everything else that was a liability in my life. I tried to cut out. And that's probably why I went into healthcare, because there's it's an altruistic field. You're giving back to others. And that's why I went down that way to start, because I wanted to be away from every sort of like selfish endeavor. But then like when you're coaching, you need to be as selfless as possible. Like it's sometimes like when you go on social media, like, yeah, I have a lot of followers and all that stuff, but it's not Jamie, the influencer coach. Like everything that I do is about my athletes. Like, how can they get better? All the influence I have is so that I can get free things to give to them. Like I'm sponsored by Bauer, and it's awesome because Bauer sends gear that they can use and sometimes keep. We had a goalie, I won't name the names, whose house burned down, lost all his gear. Bauer stepped up to the plate and got him all new gear, because I have that relationship and I work well with them. They work well with me. And like, that's the whole point of it, is to do whatever it takes for the athletes to be successful. And when they're successful and happy, in turn, it always comes back. Like it always comes back, whether that's in terms of like a monetary side of having, to keep the lights on a business and having to make payroll for my coaches. But then in terms of just like fulfillment in life, like that's what I like to do, to get those text messages, to feel good. That's when I get that little bit of an ego kick, is when others have success and I get to have a part of that success.
And maybe, as we get older, I'm not disputing what you said. Maybe it's not ego, maybe it's validation, and it's not selfishness. It's being selfless, right? It's feeling good because you helped someone else. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe that's what it is.
No, I think so. And I don't think the ego part, because usually whenever we talk about ego, it's always in a negative standpoint when you do need that. Like if I didn't have an ego to be the best hockey coach in the world, I would be doing a disservice to my
Yeah,
athlete, right?
I
It's
got it.
finding it's selfishness to find selflessness, right? It's finding that in between. And like when I was an athlete, everything I did was for me, and that also helped set me up in terms of like the nutrition knowledge, the training knowledge, all these things, the coaching knowledge, is because I wanted that for me. Like I wanted to be the best, so I wanted to learn that. Like, what do I need to do? And now that carries over into how can I help my athletes. It
Yeah,
also helps me carry over into identifying when I am no longer the expert. Right? Like my head strength coach Ben Vucci is way better than I am at strength coaching, so he is the head strength coach. Dietitian Lauren we have on staff, she's better at that. She takes all that stuff. Like whenever I have people that are better, I need to hire people that are better. Even like right now, we're hiring for a creative specialist and like social media manager, basically chief of marketing. I've been in charge of marketing this forever, but I know that I'm the bottleneck here. Like I'm too busy. I'm not doing a good enough job. I need to hire other people who are experts in this to do their best. And so
how did you learn that? Um, that sometimes in order to grow, like you need to get out of the way and just facilitate the growth, not necessarily be the grower. How did you learn that yourself?
oh, geez, I'm not entirely sure. I think it's I think it's just from like years of experience and reading and like, every like I see you got stacks of books. I can't run that on my computer, but I have like two bookshelves of like self improvement books. Out in the gym, we have like a library for our athletes that they can just take improvement books and read.
It's awesome.
And so like I'm guessing that all that information kind of stacked up, but I do also think I've never once thought I was the best at anything. And so knowing that, I've always searched to
Yep.
be the expert. And then once you realize, and then this like, I guess it's like the inverse of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Like the smarter you get at things, the more you realize you don't know
That's right.
anything. And then you have to be willing to say like, okay, like it's not worth my time to learn. Like I'm not going to go back to school and get a master's in dietetics just to help my athletes. It's gonna be a lot easier for me to find someone else to do that. Uh, but I think like in introspective self-awareness I've always had because I've always doubted myself. And so I've always looked at where are the holes in my game and in my life that I can plug. And that allows me to see those. And then just, I think I'm assuming it's just like self-help books that are saying like find experts when you need experts, and just being open and willing to that is really important because some people like, as someone who kind of for a long time did it all, nutrition, training, physio,
Yep.
goalie coaching, everything, you realize that you can only be so good at so many things. There's always going to be some people that are better. So pick that one or two things that you really want to be the best at and go all in on those.
What are there things that you think that you're still working on, or anything that you would feel comfortable sharing, like in terms of your growth or your execution? Are there things that you're still trying to better?
Yes. Oh, so many things. First one is obvious too. I know my wife doesn't listen to any podcast that I'm ever on, but is being more present in my relationship with her. I'm definitely very much improved. I could probably be better. I'm also a crazy workaholic. It's hard because, this is how I explain it to everyone, especially when we go out to dinner with family and I'm like, babe, I gotta take this call. Uh, my job is also my hobby. So like some guys will, they'll collect cars or they'll play video games with their friends or they'll play guitar or whatever it is. I don't do any of those things because getting my athletes better is my hobby and it's also my job. So like they're very much intertwined. So like having a work-life balance, I don't have one. Like straight up, I don't have one. We also don't have kids, so I kind of self-justify it being like I can be selfish now so I can be don't have to be as selfish
Yep.
later, and I can take time for my kids, so I can focus on growing the business, excuse me. Um, as of late, I haven't been exercising as much as I should because I've just been so hyper focused on the growth because we're in like that point of a business where like it's now or never to make changes, to take financial risks, to start to grow and scale up. So my exercise, instead of training every day a week like I used to, I'm saying training, exercising every day a week, every day of the week, it's now dropped to maybe like 3 times, which still is a healthy amount, but it's not what I would like. And then my sleep habits. My sleep habits are horrible. Instead of doing the right things, which I tell my athletes to do, like get off your phone, do this, do that, I'm on TikTok way too late. And next thing you know, it's midnight and then I have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning and I'm tired. And I know those things. I just have to be willing to make a change on them. But yeah, those are definitely the big three.
You mentioned, and it's whatever you're comfortable sharing, but right around this time for business, where maybe there's time to make some, kind of jump right now to kind of make some longer term gains. Is there a way that you specifically deal with fear? Because it would be natural to kind of be fearful of gosh, this is a lot of risk, it's a lot of work, whatever. But how do you handle fear when you're faced with that?
Again, these are hard hitting questions. Um, I'm not really sure. I try to be as analytical as possible on these things so I can make the best decision. And you'll never know what's right or wrong until it's years in the future. But if I try not to make decisions based off emotion, and I try to use as much logic as possible, and then I am a big believer in trusting your gut. Like your gut tends to be right on most things. And so if the gut feeling says, no, we need to open this place here, we need to take this contract, even though it means, yes, I need to send my coach here 5 times a week, even though it means that we're going to make less money, or it's going to be some sort of a loss leader. If the gut says it works, it usually works out well. And if the numbers make enough sense, then we do it. Like the gym, we're almost at our full, like the PT clinic has existed for 2 years. The gym, we celebrate our 1 year anniversary in September. Like we're in a good spot. Everything's trending up. But like I personally lost money the first 8 months. In order for me to get the coaches I wanted to get, get the equipment quality, to provide the standard of coaching, all the extras that we wanted. I had no idea how many athletes we're going to get just for summer training. In order to do it the standard of excellence that I wanted to have, like I personally just lost a lot of money. We've made it back and we're okay now, which allows me for more freedom to take risks, to lose more money, but you'll make it back. But it's just part of it. And I knew that, okay, all right, so if the gym's going to lose money, then I have to goalie coach a little bit more in order to, make sure that I'm paying the rent at home and that's good. And I still have the freedom to do the things I love to do with my wife. But I have to work more to balance it out. And it's just like sitting everything down, like pros and cons lists. I love doing pros and cons lists, writing it down, looking at the numbers and saying, this makes sense. This is what I can afford from a financial standpoint, from a time standpoint, and from a sanity standpoint. Okay, what is my gut saying? All right, let's go do it.
I've heard that a lot, that it doesn't mean taking risks. It's, taking chances, right? And I think there's a difference that they're calculated chances. They have thought behind them. But what I love that you kind of were saying is that fear for you doesn't necessarily mean stop. It almost means kind of like keep going. If you're able to act with emotion, not because of it, you trust your gut and you typically find a way. If you're doing it for the right reasons, you'll typically find a way through it.
I think so. Another thing too is like, now I have a team of, we're going to have 4 full-time like staff members. We have 3 right now, 4 starting next week when I make that hire. Whoever I'm still in the interview process. I have 1 interview right after this, and then 1 Thursday. Yeah, that's 4 people on top of our part-time coaches that rely on this business to feed themselves, their family, and their life. And I know that. Like if I'm a 1-person business, like yeah, I can afford to, sit there and feel sorry for myself and like think about this, but I need to make sure that we make payroll, right? Like I don't want to let anyone go because of this and that. So sometimes I find that fear dissipates a little bit because of those other responsibilities where it's like you have others to take care of. You're going to find a way to make it work
Yeah.
or else you're done. And so it allows, I don't know if it's a distraction of it, but it allows you to get focused and fixated on whatever is going to work and try to make that decision that's best for the business and the team rather than making those decisions that are always best for yourself. And going back to the start, like a lot of the money that I was making goalie coaching was going back to pay my head strength coach. He doesn't know that. The business was just paying him. But I was working like a crazy person and like, okay, so if 50% of what I was making per hour, 50% goes to me, 50% goes back to the business. Now it's okay because we got through that startup, that dark period, and now we're at a point where we're profitable and we can continue to grow. But I had to do what I had to do in order to achieve the goals that I want to achieve and with the team members and with the quality that I want to be known as or want the business to be known for.
Well, you are. I have no doubt that you're going to continue doing that. We know some. I know some an athlete that I worked with that has trained with you in the summer or maybe regularly, and that individual and that family has very, very solid things to say about you. And my interactions with you, very knowledgeable, you're very, very authentic, super humble, and I don't think it's a coincidence that you are where you are being successful, just given kind of how you're wired. So I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me and come on the show. If people want to learn more about you or any of the endeavors that you are associated with, where would you like for us to send them?
Oh, well, first, thank you for those kind words. I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on. I always like to talk about this and talk with other experts in their field. Best way to find the business and where we offer is ghostathletica.com or Ghost Athletica on Instagram. Everything, we have many offerings and that we talked about, and they all kind of fall under that same hockey ecosystem. I like to call it a hockey training club. And then if you want anything about me personally, it's always kind of related to the brand, but I think my Instagram's Jamie Phillips 30. But I would say the business side is a lot cooler than I am because we have a lot of really cool and awesome people involved that are all have their own unique specialties. And so I would say check out the business side because whether you're a goalie, player, defenseman, parent, you're just a hockey enthusiast or sporting enthusiast, there's something for everyone there. So I'd say go check that out.
Well, thank you again. And for those listening, thanks for spending time here with us on Always Coachable. If this conversation gave you something, we would love for you to share it with someone who you feel is still growing. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube, it's at Sandy Cohen Official. Remember that the best never think that they have arrived. So stay coachable. I'm Sandy Cohen, and we will see you next time.